Good morning.
Hey,
It's
Jonathan.
Thursday.
It's bright and early, 8 a.m. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right.
Are you? I love to see it.
On my way to the office, I stopped at a place that makes the best breakfast burritos in town.
Determined by us.
Yeah, as determined by the Dakotan and ND Talk. And I highly encourage anybody that's looking for some breakfast food to stop in at Son of a
Brunch.
Son
of a brunch. Oh, gosh, it was fantastic. Jonathan.
Food truck. And really enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's good
great.
food.
They picked it up for us this morning. It was fantastic. Where they located again?
It's like Faith Methodist or something like that, north of town.
Fair. I love it.
It is north of town. It's the first church north of town. As you're going towards the base, that's part of their primary target market.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, they are. So here's the deal. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm worried about?
What's that?
Not enough people supporting them. So then I can't enjoy them anymore.
No, that's reasonable. That's why
So I want everybody.
This is our support for them.
Everybody to stop by. They're only open in the mornings.
Son of a brunch. It's worth it.
Yep. That's a free ad campaign for them.
Exactly.
Tell them that Jonathan Starr and Kyler Collom sent you.
Well, they'll totally know us, right?
Oh yeah, but it'll work out in the long run.
Exactly.
In the long run.
I love it.
All right. So got that off my belly.
Exactly. You got it in your belly.
In my belly and off my belly.
I love it. So have a good show, I think, lined up today.
Yeah.
I got a lot I want to talk about. Anything
That's
you want to start
me.
with? Or?
So no, but things that we want to talk about today. We want to talk about whatever we put in the title. Like, that's important to us.
Yeah. we got stuff going on in the North Dakota Legislature. They've started coming out. Got some big foreign stuff that's been going on. We can yap about for a minute. With
the legislator, though, there's also the budget that was put out by Governor Burgum, which is an interesting deal.
Just yesterday.
Right, but it's interesting because he goes and he produces this budget, and then he will not be a part of it.
No, not at all. Yeah, he wouldn't have. Yeah. This is just his lasting proposal to the legislator to say, hey, if I were to stay, this is what I would like to see.
But, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll dive into it a little bit here.
National stuff going on. And then also there was a guy that was assassinated potentially.
Yeah.
Like a hit put out on him.
That was crazy.
It's a crazy world we live in. Be careful out there. Stay safe, my friends.
You gotta be vigilant, I guess. Also, we're not, CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies.
No, but we are dropping bombs on the Dunseith Debacle. And so we will have some updates on that as well.
Coming later. Got to watch, follow along the show. We'll talk about that coming up here. Got some fun stuff. Want to jump into the budget, or you want to talk about the legislative timeline first?
Start out with the timeline, boss man.
So we got the legislative session. Hasn't started officially yet, but they're beginning their process for sure. So down in Bismarck, starting yesterday, they officially met for one of the first times. The first day,
it's one of the first times.
Yeah. Yesterday was the first day of their legislative organizational session. So they're not yesterday, that was Monday. So they're starting to get together. They're getting organized. They're starting to get committees set. They're getting orientations going. They're getting sworn into office officially. It's all taking place right now. Got a bunch of stuff going on this week. Into next week, they're going to meet again. Then on the 15th, you have Governor Armstrong will be taking over from Governor Burgum. So we have 10 days of Doug Burgum left as governor.
Any big things you expect in the next 10 days?
I think the budget is about the biggest thing to expect. The fact he even proposed that, I think.
Some people would expect the same things to happen as has happened over the past year.
Whole lot of nothing. He will continue to be here minimally.
I'd say that kiddingly. I don't know if that's true or not.
Seemingly, at least.
Right. There was a lot of people that were upset with how involved he was in the presidential campaigns.
Yeah, well, he ran himself and then dropped out.
It's one of the weirdest things is when somebody that is elected to office runs for presidential campaign, is there's an automatic allowance for them to be gone as much as they want.
Yeah, like you get full free reign to pretty much drop whatever job you're doing and go do that.
That's not isolated to the governor of North Dakota. No. That is in general.
That's
there's senators that do this. There's everybody does it. So I that's an interesting deal. I don't know that anything needs to be done to fix it. It's just something that I've always wondered about. Like,
it's definitely a thing. Because you look at even like Tim Scott, who ran for president this last year, he's senator. He has some of the most missed votes in the Senate from the last session. But guess what? He was running for Senate.
Yeah.
Or not Senate, president.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
Right.
It's
Rubio ran too, or he didn't run this.
2016.
Yeah, that time, and I'm
same.
sure he would have had a lot.
I bet he did. If he went and looked back at the session from then, he probably has a ton of missed votes.
Right. Yep.
Same as Ted Cruz. It goes on.
Rubio was just on my mind, man.
Because he's going to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, it's a big deal for him.
You looking forward to that?
I don't think it's a bad pick.
Yeah.
We've talked about the cabinet picks. I don't think it's a bad pick. I think probably the best place for someone like that. So
I agree. I think that's a fair assessment of it. But back to our legislative group branch. Yep. So do you know how many there are total?
Oh, across both of them?
Yes.
No.
So we have 47 districts in the state of North Dakota, 1 senator, 2 representatives each, so that adds up to 94 representatives.
Gotcha.
So fun fact for you guys. I found that out. I guess it's not hard to find out. But
didn't do my math very fast.
It's one of those things that it's if you.
I know all the numbers.
To look into
I just didn't do the addition.
That's not the fun part. That's the hard part, is doing the math.
Yep.
But no, coming up I think starting next week, next Monday through Friday, they have leadership staff. So they're all meeting again next week. That's when a lot more of the orientation comes together. They really start learning how to work with a lot of the systems that they have in place. They start meeting a lot of the clerks, a lot of the people that help out around there.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the baby steps that lead up into the main session that starts in January. It's people that they're getting a feel for what to do. Those new legislators that haven't done it before, they're trying to find ways to process, the new information, figure out, get their feet wet, and hit the ground running come January.
This process is going to be extremely important.
It is.
Obviously, it has been extremely important, but as there's a high changeover in the legislature, this process is going to be extremely important. It needs to be streamlined, and it needs to be very effective.
Yeah, they got to make sure it's efficient. They have to make sure that these people that you're getting in here, you're not just giving them the information, but you're making sure they're absorbing it too.
Right.
And that's also on the legislators themselves to do that, of course.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has to go both ways. It has to be a good process where you have effective information, so that not just this time, but 2 and 4 and 6 years from now, when those turnover rates really start hitting, that these guys can hit the ground running and they can be effective on their first term rather than just sitting around trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, the next session is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Or in the next 4 years.
Yeah, probably 4 years more than 2 years. I think.
It's 4 years.
Yeah. Then January 7th is when the official session begins. Yep. Then they start meeting with committees at that point, and February is when a lot of the due dates for bills to get into committee happens. So a bill gets drafted, it goes to committee, it goes from committee to the floor of either the House or the Senate, has to be passed by that chamber, gets passed by that, gets sent to the other chamber, has to be passed there, then it goes to the governor's desk.
So
in short,
it starts out in committee so people can actually get a bill together that semi makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. That way you have the committee comes together, they can build it however they think is best, and it gets submitted, and if it passes committee, goes to the floor, and that whole process happens. It's fun. It's how a bill gets made. Remember that show from back when you were a kid?
No.
Mr. Bill?
Nope.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't remember it.
It was a thing. I know also in the end of February, that's when they have the deadline for constitutional amendments to be submitted by the legislature too. I think by the end of February they have to have that in. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to, they can't submit a constitutional amendment for that session.
Interesting. Yeah. We'll be paying attention to those.
We will.
There probably won't be as many this year, but
I can't imagine. No, it would probably be the following. I would imagine there'd be more coming out. But yeah, then roll into March and April. That's when stuff really starts getting voted on more heavily. And by the end of April, maybe beginning of May is when it'll all wrap up. They have 80 full days of work, of
as long as they don't
work day weeks or work week days. There we go.
As long as they don't getting any extensions?
Yeah, so long as, and that's always a possibility too. Can always happen. Has happened recently. I don't know if when the last one was, but I know it was in the past few years, and go from there.
Nice.
I look forward to it.
That's what it's gonna be. All right, so
we're gonna cover it. I look forward.
Yeah,
to it.
we're gonna cover it, whatever that means. Yeah. So one thing though, as mentioned, kicked it off with the budget proposal by the governor. Man, he was there in person, and kind of big news over here. The budget decreased. From 19.6 billion on a 2-year budget to 19.5 billion.
Hey, look at that.
So knocked off
a technical decrease.
Rounded up $1 million. It was said by Burgum, "You're facing the greatest levels of economic opportunity ever presented to any prior assembly in our state's 135-year history." So he is excited about the future of North Dakota as something that he has stayed consistent with. He mentioned that companies win, and now I know that states win by attracting 2 things: capital and talent. And that's probably been very, as you look back over his years as governor, you can probably see that being a high emphasis by him.
Yeah, like if not in those exact words, at least the general idea coming from that is definitely something that he's preached from the start.
So that's a very interesting thing, obviously, because he has the business background. It'll be interesting to see what the focus that Armstrong brings.
Yeah, because they're both, obviously, they have business acumens, but Burgum is a whole different level. And now you look at Armstrong, and he's been not a career politician necessarily, but he's been a politician for the last decade.
He's working on it.
He's been in Congress for 6 years, and now he's taking the next step. And he has a lot of natural oil. And
he was in the
gas
North Dakota House or North Dakota Legislature for a while.
Exactly. And he has a lot of. He was a lawyer, obviously, so he has a lot of legal aspects, and he worked in the oil and gas industry with his family growing up. So they'll have some similarities, I'm sure, but I feel like this is going to be a different general vibe coming from Armstrong than Burgum.
One of the things that he said needs to be prioritized is that the legislature needs to pivot away from one-time tax relief packages and move towards more permanent tax reduction. He even went so far as to criticize property tax relief programs that are just, in his mindset, is subsidizing taxes for local governments.
Okay.
And the thing is that's mostly true.
Like, at least generally, it's not wrong.
Right, because that's what people talk about when you hear them talk about the tax relief that comes from the state. It gets backfilled by the local governments. So, and of course, in the previous session, there was the primary tax credit that was given like $500 off. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Very unfair thing, in my opinion, how I get the same amount as a person that's paying $8,000 a year, and I'm paying $2,000 a year or whatever I'm paying.
Yeah. Or for someone that's paying that $8,000+ a year, how much does that even make a difference at that point too?
Right. Yeah. Right. So it is something though. But
it's better than nothing.
It would be good to see a redirection on the property tax relief. And he's also, something that has been focused over the past several years is getting rid of income tax.
Yeah,
and this year he's calling for the end of that.
He's alluded to and talked about it before quite a bit in the past. And
yep.
This is really, so now he's trying to at least push to take it to that next step to break that envelope, because obviously he's talked about recruitment for so long, and that's one of the big things that I know he's pushed about for a lot of his career, is trying to lower that income tax, trying to make North Dakota more appealing to outside people.
Specifically on that note, is because Texas, Wyoming, and Alaska, all energy states, have zero income tax.
There you go.
And so his points are that we're competing with those people for workforce.
Sure.
And so if we're having income tax, then like, what makes us better than Texas? What makes us better than Wyoming? Alaska is probably its own unique thing, but what makes us better than Alaska?
Yeah.
And that's coming from somebody that's, I know when you talk about the beauty of North Dakota, that's a whole other discussion, but you're talking about somebody that's coming here for work, and money is going to be top of line with those oil, with the energy in the energy sector.
Like, when people come to North Dakota, they realize they love North Dakota.
Yeah.
They don't come to North Dakota loving it.
Right. And I mean, if you're competing with somebody from Alaska, perhaps there's a whole different approach, because
cost of living up there is a whole different ball game in and of itself.
But
too.
they get the checks, the annual checks, and
exactly.
There's a whole bunch of different factors. I bet in some of those conversations that the beauty of the state probably does not play as much of a factor in it as you would think.
Mm-hmm.
I think in those type of conversations, they're not even. Some of them aren't even looking for a career. Like they have their career, but they're not looking for a retirement place.
No, not at that.
They're looking for somewhere for the next 5 to 7 years.
It's the next step in their career.
Right. Yeah.
And if they buy a house, they do. If they don't and rent the whole time, that's fine too.
Yeah.
And money is, like you said, one of the most motivating factors in that aspect. So how is one of the better ways to get people? Obviously, North Dakota has pretty low state income taxes anyways, but still, as
does it matter?
I think optically, yes, because
right.
I think
that's easy. That's specifically what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like I don't think monetarily it makes that huge of a difference, especially if you're making so much money. But at least from the optic standpoint, if you see like that outsider coming in and sees zero state income tax, that just looks more appealing.
Right. When they're just looking at it on paper, and it can
100%.
be an effective tax rate of 5%. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who cares?
Like what's that?
That's
I'm getting taxed.
I'm getting taxed. I don't know what that's going to be. If I make more money, I'm going to get taxed more.
That's all.
Is it going to rate, or zero?
That's all you see.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that would probably be something positive for the points that he has outlined. It'll be interesting to see if we can get rid of income tax and have major property tax reform in the same session. Is that possible?
I don't think so.
Really? So you think?
Okay, how about this? Is it possible? Probably, yeah.
Right.
Is it likely? I don't think so.
Yeah. So you think that so what do you think will happen in this session?
I think they skim over the income tax one and try to focus on property tax, and hopefully something gets accomplished.
Right. Incoming Governor Armstrong has made it vocal that he thinks that there needs to be some revamp done on property tax as well. Mm-hmm. So be interesting to see that. Obviously, a lot of people will be watching very intently.
And coming down into session, too, there's a lot of people coming with bills, or at least some idea of a bill ready for property tax reform.
What a mess.
It's
what a mess.
Hopefully.
The part that's really annoying about that,
mm-hmm.
I interrupt you, but the part that's really annoying about that is what I heard was we're going to be more prepared going into the session. We're going to be more efficient going into the session. We're going to be all this stuff. And you're telling me that with your 40 plus property tax reform bills that we're being more efficient and more prepared and all this stuff. Whatever, man. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their plan that's going to win the day. And I'm not, I'm just kind of agitated by that. Yeah. This is going out on a limb, but if egos try to win the day, everyone's going to lose.
Oh, 100% if that's what plays out. But you look at it, you spent all this time putting your proposal together because you think you have a great idea, and you want to advocate it for the best you can, and then all of a sudden that's the same thing with 30 other people.
Right, but that makes no sense.
No, and at what point, how do you get something done at that point? Who has to come to a compromising point, and who has to give up on their plan to allow for something else to happen?
The reason why that makes no sense, though, is you had people getting plans out middle of this year. Mm-hmm. With the whole point
before the election,
with the whole point of saying, let's have a conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
And the reaction by people was to create more plans.
Is that their way of bringing conversation to the table?
That is not how you bring conversation.
I think conversation comes by conversing rather than saying, here's my plan. Because now everybody has to look at everybody's plan.
That's the part so then they'll go into committee, and then
committee has to spend all the time dissecting each plan.
It'll be ridiculous.
It's gonna. Hopefully,
we're working on getting somebody on to talk about at least their plan and what the process will look like.
Hopefully, it can come together in a more fluent way than that, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in that respect.
Yep.
I don't know if I trust it to, but we'll see how it goes. Looking at Burgum's budget though too, so a couple of the big things he wanted to address. He wanted to put a lot of money towards some more housing availability and like some childcare stuff too. So I made those a couple of things he wanted to shift some money around for and try to address some of the housing issues and childcare issues in the state.
$95 million for housing accessibility, affordability, and stability. So we'll see what that means for North Dakota.
Do you think, yeah, is that going to be what, grants to cities to build homes, or what do you think that would entail? Speculating on it.
I mean, you're just wanting a lot of speculation.
Of course. What else are we going to do?
So he has a housing initiative that aims to provide financing assistance to developers for building new single and multifamily homes and taking advantage of existing infrastructure to help limit costs. That would answer your question.
There you go. That's reasonable.
So trying to help developers in getting more of that done.
More resources. I like it.
Plan calls for nearly $39 million to be put toward financing innovations to provide gap funding for developers to construct single and multifamily homes through the North Dakota Housing Incentive Fund, which is managed by the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. Also provide low interest construction loans for projects relating to entry-level homes and aging in place home designs within established neighborhoods.
I think
none of the programs talked about are going to be directed toward greenfield, as Burgum said, or new infrastructure. We have to invest in places where we've got existing infrastructure. $23 million would be used to fund innovation grants to spur additional housing projects in urban and rural areas. So $10 million would go to addressing ongoing homelessness through emergency shelter operating funds and rehousing assistance.
So it's trying to get more homes out there, and it's trying to get more people in more homes, at least in theory.
Yeah, I mean, precisely said, but also it's not about the new developments. I think that's the key takeaway that I take it.
That's fair.
It's not about going out and developing more and more of North Dakota. It's about saying, look at what we have. How can we make what we have better? Essentially, maybe that does include building some new homes, but that's not going and expanding infrastructure where money gets lost.
Yeah, it's getting those developers to upgrade what's already there.
Yeah. So make sure that we have neighborhoods that already have infrastructure to getting entry-level homes, not the 400, 500, 600, 700,000 homes. Maybe that is entry-level now. Not the high-priced homes.
Yeah.
Things like that. So definitely will be interesting.
Oh, 100%. I look forward to seeing if they even... Do you think the legislature will entertain his budget, or do you think they're just going to say thanks and look away from it? Or do you think because Kelly Armstrong is going to want his budget to be passed?
Well, I think an interesting question before you answer that one is, do you think that there was any correspondence between Armstrong and Burgum?
That's a reasonable question to think. I guess I wonder what their relationship's like.
Right, yeah. There would be a lot of... We have no way to know the answer to that one.
Because especially with Armstrong running against Tammy Miller in the primary, if that created a rift. Yeah.
So I think that there are some common priorities that they have, such as property tax relief. So I think, or not relief, reform. So I think that, yeah, something will be done there. I don't know how effective it will be, but something will be done. Mm-hmm. That'd be A. With some of the things that he's talking about with the housing initiative and stuff like that, I do think that there's a common concern about it. So it would just be if there's an agreement on the plan forward.
That's reasonable. Yeah. And how far will it really differ? If
right.
Armstrong submits his own plan, I bet there's going to be a lot of similarities between things.
Something else that was interesting in the budget was Governor recommended a new $50 million school choice program that would give each student an educational savings account, essentially a pot of money they can use to support their individual educational needs. Families would be able to put that money toward a menu of approved options like extracurricular programs or behavioral health support. He said the program would supplement, not take funding away from the state's existing K-12 budget. That's something that we'll look more into.
That could be big. Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying good or bad. That just sounds. Tell me I'm wrong, but surface level, I could be. Surface level, that sounds like effectively a miniature like Social Security program for school children in North Dakota.
Okay, way to make
a big bold claim on it, right?
Way to make everyone not like it.
Well,
Like it's a terrible idea.
I don't know if it is. It might be, but I don't know if it is. It could be a great
Do
idea.
we need another Social Security program?
Is that not what it is? I mean, you have everyone paying into a system for their own savings that they're able to take out when they go to school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Social Security by any stretch. It just has a few similarities to the program.
Right. I honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think it would be, honestly, the Representative Louser has this plan that would better support homeschooled kids and private school kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested in something like that. And this is, to me, a step in that direction. Mm-hmm. It ain't it. But that's what I'd be most interested in.
And you look at how much in popularity homeschooling has risen in the last 3, 4, 5 years too.
Shouldn't that be a concern to the state? Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know if you are, because I think because there are valid reasons people are moving away from public schools. There's issues with teacher retention, and people want their kids to be educated at home where they know where they know what's being produced to them.
You said something, and I'm going to pick on you,
Please
okay?
Do. Please
you said
do.
There's valid reasons why people are moving away. It don't matter what the reasons are.
Yeah, that's fair.
They're moving away.
Yeah.
And so those reasons are valid not because of what they're saying, but what they're doing.
Yeah.
If it becomes a trend where people begin to move away from those schools, mm-hmm. from the public school system, then eventually you're going to have public school systems that are going to fail.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
they're going to be over subsidized by the state.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Already, Minot Public Schools is suffering. They're struggling, and they're not always getting the attendance counts that they need, and so that makes them struggle even more. Yeah. They already maxed out their property taxes. They can't get a different funding source. They've went and approved budgets that are in the negative at least 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Beyond that, that's a place of struggle. Mm-hmm. That's not a good spot for a school district.
No, you're right.
And I bet if we went and looked at school districts across the state, maybe they're not as extreme as that, but I bet you there's some situations that are not positive, that there's things that need figured out.
I believe that.
Don't take me wrong. Minot Public Schools will get things figured out. I'm sure things will work out. It's not like they're going to start shutting down a bunch of schools and it's end of world problems. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this stuff should be alarming.
It should. It should at least be raising questions as to why it's happening.
Right. You should be sitting down with the people that are pulling out of school and with the homeschool communities and saying, hey, why are you not attending our school?
Yeah. Because there's a whole different ballgame between people that pull their kids from public and go to private school compared to them that pull it from public school and homeschool their kids.
Yeah, right.
Like, at least generally.
Yeah, there'll be different reasons, but there'll be a lot of the same.
At least they're going to follow similar veins for sure.
Some of the people that are going to private is probably because they don't have the time to mess with it. When you think about the time it takes for homeschooling to actually work.
Yeah.
But then it's
a full-time job.
It is, as it should be. If you look at the cost of private school, though, it's insane.
Yeah, it's
absolutely
ridiculous.
Insane.
Yeah.
The amount of money. That's something that really, really needs to be looked at by the school system of North Dakota and figure out where our public schools are potentially failing mm-hmm. and what can be done to improve it. Mm-hmm. Or perhaps it can't be. Perhaps there just needs to be overall reform. Yeah. What needs to happen?
Yeah. Like, is it need to be drastic changes, or can we do some little tweaks that we haven't tweaked yet and actually make some good changes?
Right.
Because, I mean, we can't speak as much for the state compared to Minot, but in Minot, there's definitely morale, at least to to use a hot button term recently, some morale issues going on there. I mean, it's not like it's a high thing, but there's teacher shortages to at least a minor extent. You have issues getting substitute teachers.
But they can't afford them anyways.
That's the flip side of it. So it's like, where do you go? If you need, how do you get pay for more effective teachers without raising property taxes because you're capped out?
You can't raise property tax, so you get more students.
Exactly. But when the students leave to get homeschooled, and also on top of that, your population of the city has stagnated, it creates where we're at now. Because, I mean...
Do we know why people are going to homeschool? Well, one of the reasons why is because they don't trust the curriculums that are being taught and how it's being done.
Yeah, 100%. And that even around here, that stays true to the same, because even say we're in North Dakota, we're obviously a conservative state, and we have our schools are probably completely different from a lot of others. But at the same time, just because it's a public school, it offers that the federal government and the Department of Education is going to have a hand in it. And there's a lot of people that don't like that.
Right. Well, yeah, there's like that. There's a very deep discussion that can be had there.
Yeah, we found a rabbit hole with that one. I like that. This was a good one.
Yeah. Well, and it can go a lot deeper.
Yeah. Oh,
with
100%.
when you're talking about the education that's being presented in public schools right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because you can weigh the variances between how like not just should, but how could teacher salaries be raised versus what do you do to actually still lower your budget and get under, not be spending in a deficit. Like it's.
Yeah, but it all comes back. Well, I feel like based on my knowledge of it is it generally comes back to more students.
Sure. That's fair. I mean, and I guess on the flip side of that, then you can tie this all the way back to Governor Burgum wanting to recruit more people into the state.
Yeah.
So I guess the easiest resolution would be get more people to come to Minot, and surface level, the problem's going to be at least temporarily fixed.
Okay. So one thing Miranda Schuler says is what I found in conversations with homeschool families, many value a biblical-based program, but are averse to the cost of private school or don't have access. And
That's reasonable.
I would generally agree with that. But I would add, I believe that there is a concern for some of this stuff, and maybe it's just perception of what goes on in public school. I think that COVID opened a lot of people's eyes to, one, potentially how little control you have, but bigger than that, I think it also potentially opened people's eyes to, like, maybe some people that were on the fence about homeschooling. Sure. Yeah, we could actually do this.
Like, this is a lot more manageable than we thought it would have
been. Right. As stressful as it was and all that, I think. And there was other people that said, there's no way.
Not a chance.
Like, it had effects on both sides. I'm not saying it was all one way. But I think it kind of was like, oh, interesting. COVID did a lot of things like that for people. It made them
a lot of eyes to a whole lot of different problems.
Yeah, there was a huge reevaluation that was done. I would agree that homeschool families typically are looking for biblical-based programs.
I know a lot of them do for sure. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, but I think there's also a concern that in the public schools, they're not just going to get an education; they're going to get the exact opposite. And that can be perception. I'm not saying it's reality, but that's what is felt.
Yeah, because what. I feel like I could find a better term, but how is my child going to be corrupted going into the public school system? Like, what kind of messes are they going to get associated with the other kids there? There's a whole mess of solutions that people come to with that kind of thought process,
right.
And it's a real thing.
So an interesting deal. I don't know if the $50 million for the school choice program is the answer, but perhaps it's a step in the right direction. Or that's obviously very opinionated, but perhaps it goes in a direction where there gives more actual, as it says, more choice to parents of what they can do.
And yeah, maybe at the very least too, maybe this can just help generate more conversation on the subject, get something going in some committees that can really build, and maybe they can actually get some good solutions going.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
For sure. So, anything else interesting in this budget?
I think we went over it pretty well for first looking at it. Like,
there's definitely a lot more things in this budget.
His whole,
but
it's 24 pages of
excitement.
Effectively is proposed,
and that's not the point of our whole episode to review budget stuff. So, nonetheless, legislative session. Prep is on the way. It's about to kick off. It's going to get real here soon.
Yeah, a month from now, it's going to be in full effect.
So you have a bunch of national stuff you want to talk about, but because we're on state stuff,
we don't have
jump to the ND cabinet history that you've been just yapping about over there.
Okay, well, I had an idea with this. So first, I was going to mention at the tail end of this kind of national foreign stuff I was mentioning, there are some rumors flying that Pete Hegseth could be replaced as Trump's pick for the cabinet for Secretary of Defense. And there's rumors it could be Ron DeSantis, which would be crazy in my mind to see him in a Trump cabinet.
And that position in the cabinet.
Yeah, well, that would be, I mean, he's a former, technically he was a Navy SEAL, but he was a lawyer for them. But so he has military experience. But I think that would be a wild pick. And so on the flip side of that, that leads us to talking about cabinet members and looking back at history. How many cabinet members from North Dakota because we're about to have a new one with Governor, soon to be former Governor Doug Burgum being inaugurated, assuming confirmation goes smooth, but I can't imagine
He'd be a hard one to find dirt on unless there's like ties that you don't know about.
I feel like he's one of the ones that you're definitely right with that, but he's one of the ones that compared to some of the other names, they're probably just going to, they're not going to, when you have Kash Patel coming to the FBI, they're going to just probably let Burgum go and not worry about it too much. Right. So
good for Burgum.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have Secretary of Interior, which guess what? North Dakota has had someone in the role of Secretary of the Interior before.
Really?
We have. It was former Congressman Thomas S. Klepp back in the 1970s. So
I remember him.
I do, really? Yeah, you know who that is, don't you? So he was a congressman in the 60s. He actually first ran for, so fun fact too, before I get into this, I'm writing an article on this. It's going to come out later.
He's excited about it. And I'm too. It's going to be good stuff.
I worked hard on this.
I'm teasing him some, but it's good stuff.
This is a good one. But so fast forward. So Thomas Klepp, World War II veteran. A lot of people were at that time, of course. So when he came out of World War II, he actually ended up working for the Gold Seal Company, which was owned by Harold Schaefer.
Okay.
And he was the president of that company.
Schaefer sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a popular name, isn't it? Yeah, I feel like there's a guy named Ed that we might talk about in a minute here too. So he was actually the treasurer and then later president of Gold Seal Company, which of course, if you don't know, made the Mr. Bubble Bath product, which is still to this day being produced around the world. And in 1964, he left that role to run for Senate, and he ended up losing that bid to longtime Senator Quentin Burdick. And in 1966, then he ran for Congress, because that's when North Dakota actually had 2 congressional seats. There was a long time when we had 4 electoral votes.
We actually had people.
Yes, at least comparatively, percentage wise. And he was the second. He won the second seat. He served in it for a couple years until 1970, when he again tried to run for Senate and once again lost. And then after that, what was he going to do? Oh, that's right. We have a Republican in the White House named Richard Nixon that he made friends with. So he got appointed to as the director of the Small Business Association before later, fast forward to Gerald Ford becoming president after Nixon stepped down. He got moved to the Department of Interior.
So you're going to have an article about this, and be sure to look out on My Dakotan for that.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We've got Thomas Klepp in there, Ed Schaefer for sure as well. He was Secretary of Agriculture.
Don't tell all your secrets, man.
And then I got another 4 in there that we talk about.
I have a question for you.
I think those are the big 2. If there's someone that you've heard about, it's Ed Schaefer and maybe Thomas Klepp. But
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
What presidents have visited Minot?
Quite a few. Not a lot. I think the last one was Eisenhower. So
quite a few.
Not a lot. But so for Minot's sake, quite a few. I think Eisenhower did for sure. Nixon might have when he was campaigning the first time, and I know Kennedy came through the state, and so did Bobby Kennedy. But I don't think they ever came to Minot. I know Eisenhower was here for sure, and I know Nixon. I'm pretty sure Nixon came through, but I could be wrong about Nixon.
What about Truman?
I want to say Truman did on his whistle stop tour.
Okay.
He went all over the country with his on his train.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure Truman did.
Interesting.
And I mean, Trump came here in 2017 to Bismarck, though.
Yeah, no, that's not Minot. We asked Minot.
I know, you specified Minot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, Bismarck approved a 0.5% sales tax. Minot didn't. So there's a difference.
Bismarck City Council approved it, and it just goes into effect?
I believe that it was approved by the voters in November.
Oh, okay. I got you. That makes more sense.
2/10 dedicated to public transportation, 3/10 dedicated to public safety. So a 0.5% sales tax.
And of that,
for the public safety.
Yeah. Fair enough. And buses.
Yeah.
I love it. Good for Bismarck. They got it too. I wonder what theirs is up to. If they're up to like 7.5 now.
Yeah.
I want to say, and then we'll be up to 8.
Good times.
I think something like that.
Look out for
that article coming
Kyler's
out
article here.
Days.
Yep, soon. And you're wanting to call it what?
I don't know if I want to spoil that because I don't know if it'll be consistent, but there's going to at least be a follow-up to it about a little history on Doug Burgum and what his potential role could look like.
You don't want to say the name of your column?
I'm thinking about calling it the Column because I think it would be a hilarious alliteration on my last name. But that means I would have
Nobody else might get it.
I would have to actually...
What's your last name?
Column.
Oh.
It's Column's column.
Okay.
It's genius. But that means I'd have to actually consistently do it. So,
I mean, you can do it
it's
whenever
out.
You want.
Now it's out. So I got to.
Yeah, there we go. I got
love
you to
it.
commit on there.
And make sure, look out for that end of this week. There'll be a follow-up on it probably next week. And it'll be great.
It'll be great, he says.
I think you should look forward to it as well. I think I put work into it. It's good.
Yep. All right. So that's an interesting. We're coming to a close, man.
I know. It's almost time.
Somehow we don't get to talk about South Korea and their politics going crazy.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about their whole mess.
About some 100,000 workers that went on strike or something.
In Germany. A bunch of Volkswagen people getting all riled up about the Syria civil war.
What is it? The Prime Minister of France is getting
voted no confidence.
Yeah, no confidence vote.
France's government has been toppled, and they have to have a new vote, new election. That's one thing I like that North America doesn't have is snap elections. I think there's just too much chaos.
No, we only have those at local.
Yeah, in local, not at our national.
But you just run through these and you realize everything's not as bad as sometimes we think it is.
Exactly. We're not as bad as
it's not even comparatively bad. It's that
everywhere's a
country
mess.
Is struggling with their own set of problems.
Exactly.
In Kyler's word, they're a mess, but they're struggling with their own set of problems. So,
bring your broom.
Now I know what you think of my life. It's a mess, dude.
My
You're
life's a mess. I'm
there.
a mess. You should see my office.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
My work office is looking good.
Your work office looks great.
My home office is struggling.
Different
a
ball
bit.
game there.
Yeah.
Do you want to
put together?
Should we talk about Dunseith a little bit? You want to give a little update on that?
Yeah. So, obviously we had episode 3 come out around Thanksgiving time.
Last week ago today, I think. In fact, I think it was on Thanksgiving.
And that one just covered more evidence. It
wrapped up.
If you're gonna watch episode 3, the first, then you're gonna be so uninterested with the story, you won't want to do anything else.
You gotta watch episode 1 and pretty much episode 2, but at least episode 1 before you watch it.
Episode 1 really establishes a base. We have been in contact with Mr. Hofer since episode 3 released, and we're gonna be getting episode 4 set up. The episode 4 is going to tell. There'll be more evidence covered in episode 4, but is going to talk. It'll tell a story too about his interactions with the state of North Dakota. Yeah. To this point, we've talked about
a lot of what he's found and
what
could potentially lead from that. But now he's going to talk about, in the 4th one, we'll talk a lot more of what's happened in
the North Dakota connection.
Year and a half to 2 years, and really. He'll tell a lot of what his interactions have been with state officials and different investigators that have come through, and I look forward to getting to speak with him again. Yeah. Charles, if you're watching, hoping you're doing well.
Right, yeah. So that will be a good thing to keep an eye out for. We've also heard that perhaps there's some... I talked with one friend in the legislature, and he's like, there's conversations that are happening about what's going on there. But I think most of the conversation that's happened is the same place that is surrounding the same place that Doug Burgum is giving $30 million in budget money to this budget, and that's the North Dakota Department of Commerce. There's been long rumors about there being a little bit of corruption and
just some interesting practices that have taken place.
There's been some articles that have come out and reports that have come out of
questionable
tactics that have gone on, and they've been investigated a little bit. which is not all things you want to hear about your Department of Commerce.
And I just want
Or
to
any
point out
department.
one other thing. It's just it's probably purely
Point it out.
coincidental, but Josh Teagan, who runs the Commerce Department, was tabbed as Tammy Miller's lieutenant governor pick back this spring before they ended up losing to Kelly Armstrong. Just another tie.
North Dakota's spoken, bro. Guy with the beard, too soft spoken. Maybe too far from Mike. Get in the mic, bro.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, there
My
you
bad.
go.
I'm too
Eat it.
soft-spoken.
Eat it.
I got to get in here.
That's right. So
regardless, I think that's where we're at.
yeah, that I'm looking forward to the more updates that we'll have
I
out
am too.
on.
I can't wait for that next interview.
Yeah,
Next week or two, probably expect by the end of this month for sure. I'd imagine.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But nothing is set in stone. So that's the update in Dunseith.
You ready for that? Make sure you watch the episodes we have out so far. They've been fantastic. Do you want to?
Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was great.
Did you eat turkey?
I ate a lot of turkey.
Did you go
loved
RFK style?
We didn't. Unfortunately, I wore shoes, and we didn't deep fry it either.
Did you go RFK style? I wore shoes. Okay, so
Context.
the context is that RFK goes and deep fries a turkey, and
Comes
then when he
back
pulls out the turkey, he goes without shoes on,
That was
dripping.
Mess of a turkey.
What is it? Beef tallow.
Yeah,
that
because he
uses
used beef tallow.
dripping
too.
beef tallow.
I wonder what that would be like to fry a turkey in beef tallow.
I don't know. You should try it.
It's probably
But there's
not any
only
different.
one way you can do it. You can put it in with shoes on, but when
when
you
I
take it out, it must not have.
Remember him pulling it out, and in the video, he's like, "You gotta let it drip."
Yeah, right. Yeah. When you have shoes on, with no shoes on, you definitely want to let it drip
There's
over.
no doubt. You got to make sure that drips all the way off
Yeah.
at that point.
That's hilarious.
Oh, one event I want to shout out before we get going. That's going to be happening. I know
Is this gonna be a Minot event?
it is.
You're so biased towards Minot
I
on
love
ND
mine,
Talk.
but I'm going to this one.
What?
It's the Renaissance
Really?
Christmas Feast.
What day are you going?
Saturday.
Okay.
Are you
There
going?
go. I don't think I'll be making it this year.
Oh, have you gone before?
No, because it conflicts with something every year.
Oh, fair. Understand. That's that time of year. You
Yeah,
you celebrate Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day.
No, the Renaissance Feast is not always on the 7th.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I look forward to going to it. It sounds like it's going to be a fun event. There's a potato bar. It's an open potato bar, I think the way it sounds.
So it's a baked potato bar?
Pretty much, yeah. You get to go make your own baked potato. I love me some taters, so I look forward to it.
Tater tot.
You're darn tootin'. I look forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. It's at the Regency Event Center here in town. It's downtown. Buy your tickets online. Show up Saturday. I'll be there. So come say hi.
He'll sign autographs.
I'll try not to be too awkward.
He'll be awkward, but he will sign autographs.
Yes, that's don't expect me to speak. I'll just sign. It'll be fine. Yeah.
That's how it goes with Kyler. He immediately grabs out his Sharpie. He carries his own Sharpie.
Please don't ask me to sign an autograph. I don't know how I'd react. That would be weird. Please don't.
He carries his own Sharpie. He has pictures of himself for you.
Just ready to, I have headshots in my back pocket ready to go.
He's got it all for you. Just stop
$5
by.
a pop. Shoot. All right. Anything you wanna wrap up with, Jonathan?
No, that was a pretty good wrap right
I
there.
think we're good to go.
All right, thank you for watching this episode of ND Talk. This is something we do every Thursday at 8 a.m. We also have Minot Talk Tuesdays at 2 p.m. where we cover Minot and we cover the state. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we will continue to provide you more podcasts and content to keep you informed at what is going on in North Dakota. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.